Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well wherever you are on the continent and in the diaspora. Tanzania launched its first high-speed rail or electric train within the country, and of course, many are saying this is the first electric train, passenger electric train in East Africa. We have other countries on the African continent which have this kind of infrastructure. Thank you very much for being part of the platform. Let me share what happened a few days ago, of course, regarding this important infrastructure which Tanzania has launched on the African continent. Now, this electric train which was launched is a continuation from what we are seeing is a continuation of the original rail that was launched in June. Now, the train that was launched is going to move from a place called Morogoro to Dodoma. That is the one which was launched and is about 258.2 kilometers. The first one which was launched, it was 200 kilometers, 201.8 kilometers, which was from Dar es Salaam to Morogoro. Now, pay attention to this. The first one which was launched, it is the same route that of train that was launched. The first route was from Dar es Salaam to Morogoro. Now they are launching Morogoro to Dodoma. But this train in itself, of course, what we know about it is that it was launched originally by President Magufuli, is the one who launched this program of electric train. And we have other trains on the African continent, of course, which are electric. We have countries like Senegal, they have electric trains on the African continent. We have countries like Morocco. Morocco even has the only high-speed train, high-speed rail on the African continent. For those of you who want to know about high-speed train, uh, high-speed trains actually start from around 160 kilometers and they go all the way to 350 kilometers per hour. 160 kilometers per hour to 350 kilometers per hour, and going upwards, of course. We know the maglev trains, which are present in China also, and we know some maglev trains, of course, which are present in in Japan. Now, this infrastructure is very important. Why? Because it's going to help the country to cut the distance which took by road, moving, for example, from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma. The distance was about, would take about 8 hours. Now, right now, the distance is going to take only 3 hours and 30 minutes on rail. On road, the same distance, which is around 460 kilometers, took a time of 8 hours if you are using a bus, but right now it's going to take about 3 hours. And of course, this is a very important infrastructure, and we need to celebrate together with Tanzania. They have built a standard gauge rail. Okay, they have built a standard gauge rail, but basically, standard gauge rail means it is a modern on which even high speed trains can be able to run when you look at it critically. So construction, as you are seeing, was originally launched by President Magufuli in 2018 with a ceremony in Dodoma. Now, why is this rail also important? Once again, if I may go back, the rail is important due to the person who launched it, especially President Magufuli. And we know that we spoke about Tanzania a few days ago when it came to the port, the fact that Tanzania is selling its port. It's one of the most important ports, which handles more than 80% of its cargo and containers. We said, of course, it's sold. Of course, regardless of how you look at it, they may say leasing for 30 years, which may be unacceptable to a certain level. But the port was leased to an Indian man called Adani, and of course, it's the same Adani who is, taking over or attempting to take over at the airport of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Kenya. Now, we spoke about that, and of course, some of our Tanzania friends came back to say that we are bad mouthing Tanzania, but that was not the case, of course. We are criticizing some of the bad policies. A project like this one is very important and is very good for the country, if I may say. That if they launch an electric train, it will help the country. But more so, if the train was financed by the indigenous people, it was financed by the government. And that is what we see even in this case, that the train itself was financed by taxpayers' money, by the President Magufuli. So the project is important because of the issue of raising funds and the control of these infrastructures by Africans. Now, this is the key important, the key important point that we have to note here, that President Magufuli was able to raise money. All right, President Magufuli was able to raise money from within the country, never borrowing, and he accomplished a lot. He accomplished a lot of projects, and he never invited others to come into the country. He never invited other people from outside. He was a very proud African, and he never invited other people to come and take over our infrastructure as Africans. And this also is very important. So he showed us how we can raise funds. And that is why we were criticizing, of course, President Suluhu, the fact that the port, he gave it out at a paltry, 39 million. Okay. He gave it out at a paltry 39 million dollars, which is very small. Mind you, the Chinese wanted to come and invest they wanted to come and invest in Tanzania in a port of an amount of close to $10 billion. But President Magufuli during his time reduced refused this investment. All right, he reduced it to nothing and he refused it because he saw that it will not benefit at the country in the long run. And so this is what we were criticizing President Samia Suluhu about when it came to the port. But such a project as this is very important. We think that President Suluhu should have emulated President Magufuli and his approach when it comes to infrastructure financing. Okay, when it comes to infrastructure financing, we believe that President Suluhu should have emulated President Magufuli, because President Magufuli, in the first place, like we said, he refused a bad investment into the country because this was not good for the country. The Chinese wanted to invest in that port, and they wanted actually for them alone and that particular port which they were investing in to have the monopoly over all the cargo that was coming into the country, and of course which President Magufuli, and for a very long time, for a period of more than 30 years, and which of course President Magufuli refused and rejected. Now this is the same thing that we are seeing here. Now President Magufuli of course left a model for financing projects, because Africa is not lacking in money for financing projects. That is one thing that we are realizing, that the money is there. But as reports have been written, like the report which was written in 2021 by the United Nations, and of course even the Mbeki Commission, which was established, by the African Union also, they realized that money in Africa is flowing out and it's being taken by financial institutions, foreign financial institutions, and foreign mining corporations. Therefore, this is what President Magufuli noticed. President Magufuli noticed this anomaly and sought, of course, to correct it. President Magufuli said that we cannot allow this kind of thing to continue within our continent. So he came and took over some of the mines from these companies. Actually, did not necessarily take over, but he showed them that they have to pay taxes. Many of the companies were not paying taxes to the government, which was very, unfortunate. And he had to stop this. Now, the other thing which President Magufuli did in Tanzania is that he took shares within these mining companies, especially when it comes to gold. He took shares within these countries. I mean, these companies are for the interest of the country. And this also was, very, very important. So he showed us a model which can be used to finance projects across the African continent. And we have to applaud President Magufuli on this. So all the projects that we are seeing, which President Samia Suluhu is commissioning across Tanzania, and of course is completing. Of course, you want to give her credit for being able to complete these projects were started by President Magufuli. So we want to, may his soul, rest in peace. Of course, he died in 2021 in March, but of course he had left when he had launched these projects. He had paid for these projects. The whole project, which is going to be more than 1,000, kilometers, you know, 400 kilometers of that has been completed, and the trains have started, ferrying, passengers, between Dar es Salaam and, through Morogoro and, and all the way, to Dodoma. So, which is something that we have to applaud the president, the late President Magufuli, for achieving on behalf of the Tanzania people. And the other countries, of course, on the African continent can emulate such, an approach when it comes to, financing projects. Like I said, the continent does not lack in resources, does not lack finance, but there is need for creativity in how our projects, finance projects. Our project, our infrastructure projects are financed because it is the foreigners who are taking Africa's money, as of course I said, said by the United Nations report that around $100 billion is flowing out of Africa through illicit financial outflows. And of course, one of the places that were identified where this money is going is is the United States and Europe. That is where majority of the money that should have helped Africa, to develop its infrastructure. Of course, the continent has infrastructure deficit of around $200 billion annually. So this money, which should have helped the African continent to develop, is being taken, to Europe. And this is one of the important things that President, Magufuli showed us. And it is important to recognize his legacy, and of course to applaud also President Suluhu's, for being able to complete these important projects on behalf of the African continent. But what do you think? What do you think about the fact that Tanzania has launched its first electric passenger trains? Okay, it has launched its first electric passenger trains on the within the East African region. Like I said, Tanzania, Senegal, Ethiopia, and Morocco, and South Africa already have some electric trains. And this train, actually, it is proposed that it would extend all the way to Burundi, from through Rwanda, and then also to Burundi, to be able to transport passengers and also transport cargo and other minerals within the East African region. What do you think of this model, which President Magufuli, of course, left behind? This is his legacy. We are looking at President Magufuli's legacy, and the fact that he, showed us what should be done, what must be done, okay, on the African continent, if we are talking about rapid development, and progress of the African continent. We will come later on and look at the African railway industry. As we go forward, we will look at the African railway industry and how much progress, historically, how much progress it has made, and whether where we are, is worth of celebration as the African continent. And we'll look at also other solutions for the continent. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? Even to construct, an intercontinental railway platform. So all these, we will look at them, later on. Put your comments, your suggestions in the comment section and contribute to this discussion. What do you think of the fact that Tanzania has launched its own electric train, whereby the passengers will be able to hop in, and of course it was constructed. The trains themselves were built in in Korea, and it is about 80, about 90 trains. I think 96 trains which were bought before President Magufuli died. Now, what do you think? What do you think about the fact that Tanzania has launched its electric train? And of course, a lot of other African countries, a lot of East African countries are making progress in that direction. Even though some of them they don't have electric trains, but they do have at least diesel multiple units. They have diesel multiple units which are being used on the standard gauge rail, because it is important to look at the standard gauge rail because it can take different types of trains, including diesel multiple units and also electric multiple units, which Tanzania right now is operating. And of course, this is modernization of the country. When we are talking about modernization of nations, this is it. This is what we are supposed to be looking at. Now, is this good for all the African continent? All right, so you put your suggestions in the comment section and we'll continue to have discussion on this. And like I said, we'll do an extended version of this discussion regarding the African railway industry with Mahlet later on, maybe tomorrow or today, depending on how it is convenient. So I want to thank you very much for being part of the broadcast. See you next time.